Good evening, Upper Darby. Welcome to the Finance and Operations Committee in-person and virtual meeting. Dr. McGarry, before we call tonight's meeting to order, will you please outline the public participation procedure, sir?
Yes, Board President Brown. And before we begin, happy holidays to everybody as we get through the remainder of this week, to the board and to the public and to the staff here in the school district. We are allowing for participation during tonight's committee meetings, both virtually, through email, phone call, as well as in-person participation. So for those who are participating at home, you could please send your comments and communications into either one of two ways. Phone number 610-789-7200, extension 2000. Or you can send an email to committeequestions@upperdarbysd.org. Please provide your name, address, and specific agenda item you'd like to provide a question tonight. The board will do their best to answer those questions, and if they need to turn those around to administrators, the appropriate board member will do so, and administration will do their best. Tonight, that we are in committee meetings, so Q&A will take place. It's just not comment only. We will take those who are in person first. In-person individuals can come to the microphone, provide their name and address, and the specific agenda item they would like to provide a question or a comment on, and the board will take that into consideration moving forward. There are two meetings this evening, Finance and Operations, and then Education and Pupil Services. Typically, the board has a discussion for each item, and at the conclusion of all agenda items, that is when it's opened up to public question or comment. Board President Brown.
Thank you, Dr. McGarry, and feel free to revisit that during the Finance and Operations, during the Education and Pupil Services if you need to. The meeting of the Finance and Operations Committee will please come to order. Roll call, Board Secretary, Mr. Rogers, please.
Dr. Haig.
Present.
Mr. Desnoyers.
Present.
Mr. Neal. Mr. Warsavage.
Present.
Ms. Murphy Mercy. Ms. Williams.
Present.
Ms. Mitchell.
Present.
Mr. Fields.
Present.
Mr. Brown.
Present. Mr. Rogers, I am expecting Ms. Lamar Morrissey, and Mr. Neal. I'll let you know when they're here. The district posted this evening's agenda to board docs at least 24 hours prior to the commencement of this meeting. Is there a motion to approve that previously posted agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to offer?
There are no amendments.
Thank you. The agenda has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please signify by saying I oppose and state your name for the record. Those abstaining, please signify by saying I abstain and state your name for the record. The motion carried.
For tonight, we have a little bit of a change. We actually moved an Unsung Hero Award, which will be the first part, and then we'll go into the normal meeting. It is one of the first agenda items for tonight, so we wanted to go into that, and then we'll go from there.
So our Unsung Hero this year, this is a prestigious award that we award each year to a member of the Upper Darby School District family that goes above and beyond and epitomizes all the qualities that are commiserate with our success. And this year's recipient is Mr. Marvin Lee. Okay. Good comments.
You can sit up there with your dad and your husband. Come on, have a seat.
So Marvin is our controller, but he does so much more than that. The list is endless. Usually when there's something good happening or we have something positive to report, it's usually Marvin giving the briefing. Everyone is all smiles and in good spirits. He does a great job of finding savings for us and looking for efficiencies, and he brings a wealth of experience, and I'm sure Craig can vouch for his right-hand man and all of the work that he does. And Dr. McGarry, if you want to chime in and just speak about Marvin, that would be great.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of people here that have come to appreciate and understand Marvin for who he is. I will say that when we first brought Marvin on board, there was a different expectation of completion of work here in the school district, and we've worked our way to a place where we're meeting with Marvin's expectations as much as anything else. I think, when Marvin came here, Upper Darby is a unique place, and I think not having grown up through the system and coming in from another workplace coming into Upper Darby, there are adjustments, and they're not easy adjustments. And I think over a period of time, Marvin is doing an unbelievable job bringing to us this wealth of knowledge, his ability to manage different personalities as well as the complexities of his organization. It's a big deal here in Upper Darby. The true story about how Marvin got here, and hopefully this won't offend Craig, but we were interviewing for the business manager's position in central office. Many of the folks that are in the back of the room, typically on a Friday, we do a Friday update, and we had the interview process. I think, Ms. Mitchell, you were in that interview at that time with Dr. Taylor, who's now on county council. And in that interview process, when we brought Marvin in, we went through the process, and he hadn't had a business manager's background yet. But through that process, we all turned to each other after we kicked him out of the room to talk about him. We asked him to go sit outside. We all agreed, I think pretty unanimously in the room, we've got to get this guy on board here in the organization. And so Craig was interviewing at the same time. Craig did not get the opportunity to pick Marvin. We picked Marvin. We administratively, central office, recommended Craig, and at the same time told Craig, we have your controller. We're hiring him at the same time. And if you remember that day, Marvin, it was a pretty intense conversation. And I will say, along with the other wonderful administrators in this district, I don't think we would have made it through COVID-19 and the handling of all the procedures in the school district without you, without your leadership. And I know volunteering with your family at vaccination clinics and what you've brought to the table here, whether it's not just here, but helping in the community events. I know your son DJs quite frequently for the community and the township. So you've bought into the Upper Darby family, the Upper Darby way, and I think we're blessed to have you here. Hopefully this award keeps you here. That's really the intention behind the award. It's to brainwash you to stay. But I don't know if Craig would have any comments, but I really appreciate what you've brought to the table and your ability to adapt and to work with us here in Upper Darby. It means a lot. Thank you. Congratulations.
Craig?
I'm usually don't have much nerves to speaking publicly, especially with all the presentations we give, but this would be the hardest conversation for me for how much he means to me in our office. So I don't know that I can say it better than Dan. I would have never made it through COVID-19 without him, and a lot of the other things that many of you don't see. So I'm beyond grateful for him being part of this family, and I'm going to stop there because I can't say much more.
Wow. Before I present you your award, I just want to speak on behalf of the board and say the board, every single one of us, I think I've heard every single person sing your praises at different times for different reasons. So you always knock it out of the park. We appreciate your attention to detail, how thorough you are, and how much you care about the work you do. So thank you for your expertise.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, I truly didn't expect this award. Truly didn't expect this award, and I've been here with the Upper Darby School District for about 3.5 years. We went through a lot of challenging moments, and there was always Craig, the team, my family was always there to support me, and I feel like I was truly accepted by everybody in the team. And the team, I don't know how you kept it secret because I feel like I share everything with you, but you didn't tell me anything. You could have told me like a little hint, but I was like didn't know anything about it. I wanted to thank you, Joe, Tim. We had some tough times in the beginning, but I don't think we have tough times anymore. I think we have a great team, and we recognize each other's like a strength and weaknesses. We support each other. Alan always support me every single day. Maureen, you go to the train station every morning to support us. Thank you so much. And John Paul, you're brand new. You have no idea what you're getting into. but you're doing a great job. Thank you so much. Amy, we can't survive without you. And I can name every single one like a family member. And I can talk about these guys all day long. But without you, I'm nothing. I'm here to support you. I'm here to make your job a little bit easier. I'm trying to make school district a little bit better every day. That's what I do. And I truly thank you for what you have done for me today. Thank you.
Very well said. Very well said. I will now turn over the Finance and Operations Committee meeting to my co-chair, Mr. Warsach.
Thank you so much, President Brown. Mr. Rogers, would you mind sharing with us your agenda item for this evening, and you can launch right into the presentation.
Yes. So tonight we have one agenda item, the transportation technology update, which will require board action. So tonight, our unsung hero will give a presentation and introduce two technology improvement initiatives in the transportation services. One is the Mobile Data Terminal, MDT, which will increase operational efficiencies and improve parent communication by tracking employee time and attendance, displaying updated routes, tracking and reporting student ridership through a parent app, documenting pre-trip inspections, and providing turn-by-turn directions to our drivers. Transportation also plans to upgrade the bus video camera system. The new system will drastically improve the video quality and also allow wireless downloading of our footage. So at this time, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Lee to give his presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Good evening, everyone. My name is Marvin Lee from the Operations Division. And this evening, I'll give you updates on two technology updates in transportation services. They are MDT, Mobile Data Terminal, and School Bus Camera System upgrades. The first feature of the MDT, the Mobile Data Terminal, is the time and employee time and attendance. Right now, our transportation drivers use the paper process to sign in and out of the clock, but that's very challenging because everybody's shift is different. Because some drivers start at 5 o'clock in the morning, some drivers start at 7 o'clock in the morning, so it's very challenging to keep track of that. And obviously, our drivers are on the road all the time. So our drivers and assistants will be able to clock in and out of the system on the bus going forward. And the tablet is tied to our routing system. So the system kind of already knows when the drivers and assistant should be able to clock in and out of the system. So this system will also shed some extra layer of accountability to our operations. And when the times are logged in, so we will be able to see in three different buckets: regular hours, adjustments, which is related to weather, traffic, and additional assignments, and the field trips. So we'll be able to see those like three different buckets. We'll be able to use those data to plan our operations more efficiently going forward. And one more feature that we have is that employees will be able to clock in. I mean, they will be able to actually view the total hours of their week, so they don't have to guess how many hours they're going to get paid. So they'll be able to have that information on the tablet anytime they want to see it. So this is actually the actual pictures, the examples in our buses and in our van. So you may think that that's distraction maybe, but I mean our drivers used to have the route sheets on their hand, so they'll be able to see the routes in a tablet. So I think it's going to be a lot more efficient, also even safer. And those locations are also approved by PennDOT. So it is approved by PennDOT. Additional benefit is our drivers will be able to pull the route sheets on the tablet too. So our regular drivers obviously know their routes, but we have a lot of cases, especially now, our substitute driver have to cover the routes for the employees that are maybe sick or called out. So in the past, our dispatcher had to print out the route sheets and hand over the route sheets to the actual substitute driver to cover, but they'll be able to just punch in the route numbers on the tablet, and they'll be able to pull those route information on the tablet, and they can also get the turn-by-turn directions for the drivers as well. So next item is the student tracking. Essentially, the transportation department will be providing a bus pass with a barcode to all eligible students. So there will be 3 different ways to get on the bus. The student can scan the barcode on the unit, or they can use the punch pad, the keypad to put their student ID information. Or if the student is not comfortable, our driver or assistant will be able to also clock you in the tablet as well. What it's gonna do is that I'm gonna talk about it in the next slide, but our parents will be able to get push notification when the students get on the bus, and our drivers will be able to recognize, will be able to match the face and the actual student. So we think that we will be able to minimize the number of unauthorized riders on the bus by comparing the actual student and the picture. Yeah, what had happened is that when they log in or scan in, the student picture will show up on the tablet. So the driver will be able to actually match the student and the actual student in the picture. So GPS-based app. So I'm not gonna even call it GPS parent app because I feel that this app will be more used by our students than the parents because they are on the bus stop anyway. So many parents have been waiting for this moment actually, GPS-based app. We introduced the airline style, maybe dashboard. We also have the text, email, and also the voice message app. But we are planning to release the GPS-based app, which is the feature is that the parents will be able to see the real-time location of the bus. The parents can also set up different push notifications based on the distance, minutes, or the student ridership. So for example, if the parents wants to see the bus, maybe like a systems push out the notification when the bus is 2 miles away, they'll be able to get the notification. If you want to set it up based on time, maybe let me know in 15 minutes when the bus is going to be arriving to my stop. You'll be able to actually get that information too. So it's going to be very convenient. And the parent validation process will be self-serviced. With a student ID and student birth date, they'll be able to get that access to their particular student. And we will also consult with the student services before we push the information out so we can limit certain access to certain parents based on the custody issues. Next item is the pre-trip inspection. Based on the PennDOT publication 117, we have to inspect the buses before every time our drivers are on the bus. In the past, and even now, we're using the paper process to document any deficiencies of our buses, but our drivers will be able to document the deficiencies of the buses on the tablet. And we're going to be also collecting the daily odometer readings on the tablet, and that documentation will go directly to our dispatchers and also mechanics too. So we don't have to hand over the paperwork of the inspection paperwork to our dispatchers. And we have some examples of what it's going to look like. It's kind of hard to see, but on the left-hand side, you are seeing the actual inspection report. You can see the bus number, you can see the driver name, you can see what time it was submitted, and you can see the odometer reading. And on the right-hand side, you can see who's doing the inspections, who's not doing the inspections too. So each X, if you press that button, you're gonna be able to see actual inspection report. And driver can also write down the comment about the bus so mechanic can find out what's wrong with the bus through the system. Next item is the procurement and timeline. So we already have a contract with our GPS vendor. Our GPS vendor's name is Where's the Bus, and the company already has the capabilities. So we're going to be expanding. We're recommending that we expand the contract to include these capabilities. And the one-time extra cost, the one-time cost is going to be about $120,000. Annual recurring cost is going to be about $20,000. And we did a quick calculation of the return on investment, and return on investment is almost instantaneous. So our total budget, given our total budget, we're going to be saving a lot of money through accountability of the time and attendance, the time that we are spending time on the phone with the parents, time that we have to print out those route sheets and give it out to our drivers. We're going to be saving a lot of efficiencies and also dollar savings too. The timeline is that we want to do a pilot program with one special education bus and one van in January. We also have one unit in dispatching unit. I actually have it in my hand, so they can play with it. Our drivers can play with it. And we're going to be evaluating the feasibility of this program in March 2023. If everything works out okay, we want to have the implementation by May of 2023. We particularly picked May 2023 because we wanted to roll this out when routes are pretty stable. And also we wanted to test out the startup process with the ESY program. Then we will be ready for 23-24. We didn't want to roll something brand new thing out in the brand new school year. So communication is obviously very important. Parent and school communication of this program is going to be the key to success. And the company that we are dealing with have a lot of experience with the communication. So we're going to be getting a lot of guidance from the company. And we're going to be working with the Rhonda's team to get the communication out to all the parents, community, and also our drivers and attendants as well. So next item is the bus camera system. The bus camera system is going to give us two major improvements. Number one is the quality of the video, and number two is going to be workflow. The quality of the video is we are currently using the standard definition footage, but we're going to be upgrading that to high definition. And we're going to see the footage with the GPS location, speed, date, and time with it. And we're actually looking at one of the sample footage from our current video system, but that's going to be a lot more crisp when we get the new system.
Looks pretty good.
We plan to maintain the current camera positions, 2 in the front, 1 in the back, but we will be asking companies to make recommendations if they have any. Next item, kind of hard to see, but it's going to provide improved workflow. The retrieving the video process is pretty cumbersome because when we get a call or email from the school, somebody from the dispatching office has to go out when the bus is on the yard. We have to open the camera system with a special tool. We have to get the chip out of the system. We have to walk back to the dispatching office. We have also a special tool to play that video. And we have to save that file. We have to go back out to the bus when the bus is on the yard. And we have to lock it again. And that's the process. But when we have the new system, we're going to be automatically downloading that footage wirelessly when the buses are in the yard, so we don't have to chase the buses all the time. Finding the footage is going to be much easier for us too. Right now, either Barb, Amy, or Prashant is spending a lot of time trying to find the specific footage. But there's going to be an external button on the bus, so when a driver notices something going on in the bus, they can press a button, and it's going to mark the video, so we can easily find the spot. Yeah. And the sharing video is going to be much easier too. In the past, if the file is small enough, we were able to email the file to the school, or if the file is too big, we had to drop off the flash drive. But we'll be able to send a secure link to school with a password, so they can see the video footage. Video management is going to be also easier too. We used to manage those video footages in individual computers. So we try our best to save the footage in a shared server as much as possible. But in the future, we're going to have a cloud-based dashboard, so anybody can manage those video in the office, off-site. We'll be able to manage those video much easier going forward. So timeline, we have done the market research. JP was here, but Jeff did a really, really good job. John Paul did a really good job reaching out to multiple companies. And he and I also wrote the scope of services, already ready to go. And we're going to be working with Joe to get the RFP out, hopefully this week. We will be getting the proposals to you in January. Craig and I will come back to this table in February asking for your approval in February 2023. And implementation will be completed by May of 2023. We already talked to the company, and there's plenty of time for them to install them. And the estimated cost is between $300,000 to $350,000. We think it's going to be on the lower end. But the PCCD grant, thanks to Wendy, we got $292,000 set aside, earmarked for this project. So we think it's going to cover most of the project through PCCD grant. That concludes my presentation, but before I close out, I have to thank my transportation team. We have great people in transportation department. John Paul, Barb, Amy, Prashant, Katrina, Karen, Pickle. We have a great team. And I truly think our drivers and assistants have the most difficult and most important job in the school district. That's why we say it's our people, and I truly believe it. And I'm always grateful to work with our team. And if you haven't heard me saying thank you to you, and thank you so much for what you do, and thank you so much for what you do for our students and our families. And I'm done with my presentation. I'll take any questions from you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. This is very exciting. Very much looking forward to this. I had a couple quick questions, and then one probably also quick, but anyway. The first one is just as far as the recording history. I'm assuming this is one of these situations where X number of weeks of footage are retained, and then like, are there some sort of, like, I don't know, industry standards or something? How does that work?
Industry standard is about a week.
A week, okay.
About a week, yes.
And that's what we're doing? Or
That's the minimum requirement.
That's the minimum requirement.
Minimum requirement.
And is
yes.
that is that sort of our intention then, going?
It's a double-edged sword, actually.
Yes, I'm sure.
We want to have like too much footage,
Yeah.
or 1 week is usually what we go for. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The second question was for the tablets, there was an upfront cost and then an ongoing cost. For the cameras, it just says one cost that I'm assuming is the upfront cost, but what about ongoing costs for
There's
the?
not much ongoing
storage
cost
or whatever?
unless obviously camera breaks. We actually think, there's no more additional cost.
So if we don't have, there are either no or minimal costs for like the storage of the
No.
video and that kind of thing?
It's all inclusive. That number that I gave you is all inclusive. Yeah.
But I mean, oh, okay. But isn't there an ongoing cost for the storage of the video? Like the, on a server or something, or is it something we already have?
No. I mean, I double check with the company. Is it any other cost that we have to bear?
But then is the video footage stored on our servers or theirs?
That's my question.
Cloud server. That's what I heard from the company.
We can have a cloud storage and they can have it. So I think her question is where is it being stored? Who has control over that? Where
I'm not
is
100% sure about that question.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you could get back to us on that, just
Yeah,
'cause
well, yes.
I would assume it would be theirs, in which case I would assume there would be some sort of ongoing cost, though I would expect it to be small.
Yeah.
But that's something. The last one, and I know that you probably don't love this question, and I know that you and your team are working incredibly hard to get us as many people as we have, but I
Yeah.
wondered while you're here if you have any kind of updates for us on drivers. I know that the bus for Westbrook Park, in the afternoon, it just gets the kids home a little late, and it's not that late, and it's not the end of the world. In the morning, it just, the bus is just not getting the kids to school on time, so hardly anyone is taking it. And I do appreciate, I totally understand you all are going above and beyond, but I'm just wondering if there's any hope, or if we have people onboarding, or it's looking bleak.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the driver shortage every single day, and we hear it from our parents, we hear it from everybody in this room about it. So just go back to like what we have done to hire people. So just give you like what it takes to hire people. So we interviewed about 300 drivers, applicants, and our yield was about 10 people. So we have like 300 people applying. We go through all the process. We lose a lot of people because, number one, it's a hard process. It takes about 4 to 6 months for them to get the CDL license, number one. And as we hire people, we lose people at the same time. So that's very hard. Not only drivers, but also attendants too. So we always try to hire people. But what happened last couple of weeks, because we heard a lot from last couple of weeks, it was the Thanksgiving holiday happened. People get around and they share different things, and a lot of people got sick. We have about 75 drivers, and we had about 13 to 16 drivers out because they were sick. Some drivers actually come to the yard hoping they can be well enough to drive. They were like waiting on the yard, but they couldn't do it anymore. Hey, I'm sorry, I have to go home. I really can't drive. I understand what you're going through, but I can't drive. So we are stabilized now, but my worry right now is that we're gonna have a Christmas break, the year-end break, and they're gonna come back and get ill again. That's my biggest worry. As long as we maintain the 75 people, our drivers understand. They do come to work because they understand. And we have like a pickle and other people trying to hire as many people as quickly as possible, but we're not there yet. Yeah.
Just to add too, so we have been going through these conversations and trying to be as creative as we possibly can, and just realize that our transportation workers are part of the TWU union. It's unionized work. So they've been gracious enough to allow us last year and this year to contract out van services temporarily just to help get over the hump. We most recently had a conversation with the union about expanding that and adding a few more vans to make sure we have somewhat of like a rescue service out, so that the contracted services are not taking the runs from our employees that they bid and their runs. But to be able to have it as a supplement to help as we come out of or back from winter break, to what Marvin just explained was the exact concern. So we are adding, we plan to add more vans. It's just going to take a little bit of time to go through that process, make sure they go through the proper clearances, even though they're employed with the company, and make sure we check all the appropriate boxes to get them on board.
So that some tiny little bit of light of hope. Have we had any pushback from the union on expanding that somewhat, or no? Okay, good. All right.
No, quite frankly, I mean, Marvin has the meetings with them, and at this point, they see it as a relief.
Yeah.
And that we truly are, reaching out to say, help them in any way we can, and that it's not a permanent solution.
Right.
Neither of us nor Dr. McGarry believe that would be a permanent solution. We want to staff. Quite frankly, when you look at our normal call-out rates, in a normal situation, you're around like 5 or 6. So when Marvin says we had 16 multiple days last week, that's aggressive. Almost triple what you would normally expect. I've always given him the okay and to push forward that we actually, whatever the number is of the drivers you need in a given year, let's add, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. In a great scenario, I'd love to have 10 and like a stable of drivers, so that when you have that, when you're almost guaranteed to have people out, when you're talking about 100, 75 to 100 drivers, you would always have, subs ready to go. And like Marvin said, it's somewhat of a revolving door, as especially now that the market's gotten even more competitive than it's ever been. For every one you hire, you may lose 2. So it's, that's our goal, is to continue. The hiring process never stops in transportation, and I don't believe it ever will. It's just part of the industry. But Marvin and his team do a great job, like he said, trying to comb through 300 applicants in 1 year while trying to run transportation short-staffed, is a feat in itself. That's, it's tough.
So I'm concerned as a cybersecurity engineer, I'm concerned about the security of our pictures and where they're stored and things like that. So if you could certainly find that out, that's my biggest concern.
Okay.
So
Just to add one thing there, and I know we've dealt with this, just generally speaking, more on the student services side versus like transportation. When Fox Rothschild goes through any of our agreements, that is absolutely an area of focus of how the contract's written up and who has ownership of the video, what happens if the contract's canceled, who keeps, what the custody trail of the video. So when we go through that, I'm sure Kyle will be very aware and definitely looks at that. But I think the one thing we will get you an answer on is how's it structured, the actual cloud-based portion of it.
thank you, sir.
Just a question about, if I could get, if you don't have it at this time, that's fine, but later if you give me information about how the video from the camera is accessed and what the security is around that.
Okay.
I guess the kind of thing I want to avoid is anybody bringing something in that could do the same thing, whether it's an app or they find a device online or something like that.
Okay.
So just making sure that the yard is the only place that can retrieve those videos. We're the only folks that can retrieve those videos from the cameras. That's my concern.
Yeah, I'll totally get back to you
Because
with
it says
those.
wirelessly, and so that means wirelessly. So
Yeah.
just the security around that, I'd like to know more about.
Yep.
I just wanted to make a note that we haven't issued the RFP yet, so I'm sure we can add this into, that it's important that we own the video as part of the RFP. And I'm assuming that I know we have a company that we're using right now to record video on buses. And I guess we're sort of assuming they may win the bid, given that some of the equipment is already on
We have a very
buses.
capable, 3 different capable companies competing for our job at the
Okay,
minimum. Yeah.
All right, so because we haven't issued the RFP yet, I think this is great feedback that we're getting from the board, but I guess we know that in January you'll have that for us when you come back.
Yes. Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you.
There was on slide 8, there's an estimated annual recurring cost of 20,000, and that includes the cloud storage. If I understood what you said earlier, is that correct?
That's the tablet. That's the tablet system. And
But
Dr.
that
Maggie-
doesn't include the. So are we talking about two different RFPs? Because there's the camera system and then the tablet system. Could you explain that one more
Yes.
time?
We don't have to go through the RFP process for the tablets because we already have a contract with a GPS company that has a capability of expanding the contract to include this program. So we don't have to go through the program, but we just have to expand and pay more money to this company to get this done. But the camera is different. We are trying to place the existing camera, so we're gonna need a new RFP.
Okay. And then when, it should be okay. Yeah. Is there Wi-Fi installed in the bus yard currently to access and download the videos, or will that need to be installed as part of the process?
That needs to be installed as a part of the process.
And that's part of the contract that's included in the cost. And
So
okay.
we have multiple options. We have district option. We can have the GPS company do it. We can have the camera company do it. So we already talked about Belinsky about it. So we'll see what is the best option, most cost-effective option, and we'll come back to you. We
Okay.
may not have to come back to you.
Okay, perfect. And there was a second one that I wanted to follow up on, but now I forget. Oh, it was the student IDs. So these are additional IDs that are being handed out. Is there any way that we can coordinate with student services and build the barcode into our current student IDs that we hand out, in which at that point we could use for athletics, right? If a football team goes, they're actually signing in onto the bus as well. So we're keeping track on everyone who's on the bus, so it's not just those that are getting picked up and dropped off.
It is possible. So one option is that our preferred option is to provide the bus pass to each student, but we can also provide a sticker of the barcode that can stick to the existing student ID as well. So that's an option too.
That's something. Oh my God. That's something I would definitely recommend, because I think kids will end up losing things and having multiple cards. I think it's going to be tough for them to handle. So thank you.
Yep.
I did have one other extra question. Does the administration already have a useful policy or AR that would address a situation such as a student walking onto a bus and thinking that they can get on just because everyone else does it, or because they think we're not checking, and then they're the one that gets got? Is there, so to speak, is there a dignified way that kind of situation would be handled? Because I'm sure we want to make sure that, of course, we don't embarrass the student, but also we want to be good stewards of the resources that the community is letting us use their investment on. So if someone can answer that.
Okay, my recommendation is to not to embarrass the student, but let the student on. But we follow up with the school to let the student know that you're not eligible for transportation. So the student doesn't have to be, on the spotlight, having to walk from the bus.
And this is where we don't agree, but we let people, run their offices. Let me provide some information on this, having been a principal in the district, and the complications. If you're a school that has busing at your school and you're an administrator, it takes up the vast majority of your morning with transportation issues. Historically, in the school district, we have a code of character and an understanding in our handbook about transportation and how it gets handled. I think, to Marvin's point, what has happened, and it's, I was involved in a conversation most recently with a parent who told me, and Mr. Marshlack and Dr. Manfrey, to take all the phones away from kids. The kids are begging you to do it, take the phones away. And that's complicated. I'm seeing a lot of that conversation happening in schools, but I think the knee-jerk reaction of just going and taking the phones from kids and saying phones can't be in school could have consequences for us to work that out with kids. Similar to this process, if we say you have to have your ID as a part of a dress code, and you need that ID to get on a bus, to Marvin's point, we have kids who show up without any of that information, and historically, prior to Marvin being on board, we would deny kids getting on the bus. They would then be left at the bus stop And sometimes at that point in time, this is going back years ago, there was nobody at home. And so now those students didn't have anybody at home for their child and they missed school. Or it may be a special education student, and then verifying those lists and that information becomes cumbersome. So we were working on a grace period with families and students saying, this is your one and done situation to be a part of that. And that's kind of the relationship where then we're holding up a bus and we're delaying our runs. We want to establish and need to establish, you have to have an ID to get on the bus. We have to identify you to get on a bus. The problem has become historically to that question that runs are so tight in the school district that checking the students and verifying it delays 5 to 10 minutes. As we know in Upper Darby, 5 minutes somewhere could lead to 10 minutes later. And so we're working on the process of requiring the IDs and making that a part of the dress code for this. This is one of the slight hiccups, I think, in moving in this direction when you're so large, is requiring that of students is tough. But we would like to set that with a short grace period as we work that out with kids. This school year, we moved to a different process. So we did provide more because some of the boundaries and some of the changes with the software made it cumbersome in the beginning. But I definitely think we need to tighten up and make sure that you cannot ride a bus without being in the appropriate area and having an ID, because I inevitably, and the director of elementary and director of secondary, will spend hours of our day because people will find out so-and-so's kid's getting on a bus. Why isn't my kid getting a bus? And they are 4, 5, 6 phone calls easily. That takes hours of time trying to figure out who's getting on a bus and why. So this is going to help us move in that direction to verify who's getting on a bus versus having a printed out sheet, trusting who that is or not getting on a bus.
So when students lose their IDs, how long will it take? What's the turnover before they can get a new one?
I don't know the answer yet, to be honest with you.
We do have a process for that. So in the beginning of the school year, students get non-image IDs. That's so they don't have to wait until the fall picture date to qualify for entering the bus. So there's no image on it, but the student's name, their ID number, their school, and their grade is on it. Then when the fall pictures come, they get their updated IDs directly from their schools. So as of last year, we went 100% having the IDs processed in the building. So that just eradicates the delay. So as soon as a student reports it to an administrator, there is a system in every school to have them replaced immediately.
So as a follow-up question, and I've never seen the IDs, so they have a barcode on them, I assume, correct?
They can, and they have in the past.
And it's not something that can be photocopied and then scanned over, correct?
Absolutely not. We work with Barksdale, which makes sure that that's proprietary.
And I like with the new system because if they did forget their ID, they can still punch in their student ID number, and their picture will come up on the tablet to verify. So I like that feature a lot. So even without the ID, they would still see a visual confirmation. This is the student, that I didn't just utilize a student ID from another student like a friend, because obviously the pictures aren't going to match. So I really like that feature.
I think there's some really good questions. The barcode is a concern of mine as well, because kids go to lengths to do certain pieces. And then the IDs, which I appreciate punching in the code. We've had kids, especially in the cafeteria, punch in somebody else's code, and that has been an issue in the past. I think the image of the student and verifying it will be a big part. I did want to follow up to a previous comment that Dr. Haig was making, if I can, if there are no other board comments or questions about this. Go ahead.
All right, last comment. So what does the training look like for the drivers for this program?
So that's exactly the reason that we wanted to get this out in May. So when things are stable, so everybody knows their routes. So it's gonna be the GPS company will provide training, and it's gonna be also the trainer kind of training, and our dispatchers will walk them through, person by person, so they're comfortable. Yeah.
The training, you want to have the program rolled out in May. So you want to train the bus drivers whilst, during school while it's going on, right?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
I'm going to follow up to that question about the training and when we want to begin, and I'll explain some of the rationale because I had a similar question. But I want to come back to Dr. Haig's question. This is not to toot the horn of the administration of the district or the fact that the board expects this of us, but I appreciate that the board does. If you're reading the Philadelphia Inquirer, there have been some schools who have come out lately now notifying their community of maybe having to close schools for staff that might be out. If you recall, we put this out in August with our back to school with a ratio and an explanation of when we may have to close schools. In that conversation, it was also about bus drivers as being a key part of that in our explanation. So I want to circle back to the comment, the fact that the transportation department and team, although certainly not perfect, has not called me and said to me, we can't open school tomorrow because we're short drivers, has been nothing short of miraculous since August of this year. And so a compliment to the entire team that we have not had to close school because we've had, in some days, 16 to 20 drivers out in one day. Also, averaging almost 16 to 18 teachers out. So when you have the number of teachers out at each level plus drivers out, the fact that the school district has remained open with what I'm hearing is a tridemic now in some reports is pretty miraculous. So that's an important piece. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Some of the conversations we're having and we're going to have explore moving forward, and we've heard this by going around and talking to our teachers at our coffee meetings, maybe we have to focus on and talk to the community as transportation shortages continue of high-need students, special education, elementary students as a priority, and then talk about using some kind of a system for secondary education students, secondary students, maybe providing public transportation vouchers so that we can keep it going. We've been looking at that with Marvin and Craig, and we'll continue to look at that kind of system. And speaking with friends that I coach with who are bus drivers in our school districts, they're leaving and now driving for food distribution companies and making considerably more money in that industry. When they get their CDL license from school districts, they can make a different jump. So we got to keep our eye on how that's happening throughout the area. The other follow-up question to your point, typically in schools, we're used to kind of like rolling out initiatives on a yearly basis. So the school year closes, we have new teacher induction, we bring people in, and we hope that it works. Really, probably a lot of industry practices are too, outside of public education. Sometimes you're trying it with people in the moment, almost like food testing, to see if it's working and how it works. And so to Marvin's point, I think in transportation, if they start this in May and not at the beginning of a hectic school year, at the start of a school year, we'll not run into such substantial changes. The summer lets out, we want to try to implement this, and then August hits, and then we're introducing all this new stuff at one time to people. So I bought into that concept of rolling it out now instead of later on to see if we can work our way through it as those systems come into play.
Excellent discussion, everyone. Any other feedback or concerns from board members? All right, seeing none, we will now move to the time for public comment. First, we will take those from the comment from people present. As a review, please come up to the, stage, to the podium, announce your name and address, and the only agenda item that you will be making a comment on. Are there any takers for this evening? Seeing none, Ms. Buford, do we have any commentary from people online or over the phone?
Yes, we have one comment from Anne Marie Pierce, located at 7286 Lamport Road in Upper Darby. This comment was received on the 18th via email, and it is regarding Finance and Operations Agenda Item Number 1. The comment begins, how is this transportation issue being addressed? Canceling DCTS 2 days per week, having our children waiting in the freezing rain for 45 minutes while the bus app says the bus is quote-unquote on time is not working. This is unacceptable. If we can build new football fields, we should be able to hire a private company to bus our children until enough staff is hired. End of comment.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rogers, would you mind reviewing for us the only agenda item that was up for bid this evening?
Sure. So again, we have the transportation technology update, which is board action to move forward. or we're asking the board to move forward. Marvin presented the mobile data terminal initiative as well as the new video camera system. So at this time, we just would like to hear if the board would like us to move forward.
All right, and as a review point of clarity, the RFP would be for which aspect of that?
The cameras.
For the cameras,
Yes.
and the extension of what we already have is the GPS and the tablet stuff.
That's correct.
All right, so do we have a board consensus to? All right, yes?
Yes.
Beautiful. And I hand the meeting back over to President Brown.
Thank you, Dr. Warsavage. A motion is in order for the adjournment of the Finance and Operations Committee meeting.
So moved?
Thanks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.